Welcome to how to program and operate the Icom ID-880H amateur radio transceiver. This is a tutorial for new hams, hams with a new-to-them radio, hams with an Icom radio, or anyone interested in amateur radio. I'm Milt Reynolds, KJ7, PPX in Boise, Idaho, calling QST. This is Episode 2, Reset and Setup. To begin on a level playing field, I recommend resetting the radio to its default configuration, an all reset. I purchased my radio used, so I really didn't know how the previous operator had configured its programming, and I didn't know what memory channels had been stored. The all reset function helps eliminate any potential problems that the previous owner had introduced while programming. Before I demonstrate how to perform an all reset and partial reset, I need to explain some terms. Tap means to tap the button once and release. Long press means to press the button for at least 1 full second. Hold means to long press one or more buttons while tapping another button, then releasing all. Press and hold means to continue pressing until told to release. The following demonstration will require me to activate several different buttons and one dial. Some of these buttons have more than one label because they have more than one function. To avoid confusion, I will try to refer to these buttons by their main function, even when they're used for their secondary functions. For example, power refers to the button marked PWR. Memory write refers to the button labeled MW. Menu refers to the button labeled Menu. VFO, or Variable Frequency Operation, refers to the button labeled VFO. Memory Call refers to the button labeled M/call. Moni, or Monitor, refers to the button labeled Moni. And Dial refers to the tuning dial and its center button. Note the secondary labels of some of these buttons. The memory write button is also marked as S.MW, referring to its select memory write function. The menu button is also marked with a symbol that represents a key, referring to its lock function. VFO is also marked with MHZ and scan, referring to megahertz and its scanning function. Memory call, M/call, is also marked as tone, referring to its tone selection function. And Moni is also marked as DTMF, referring to its secondary dual tone multifunction. The tuning dial is perhaps one of the more confusing controls. The dial is labeled on the front panel as band/mode. This is because the dial must be rotated to select a specific frequency or band. In other cases, the center button must be tapped or long pressed in order to enter mode selections. To make things simple, I will refer to this control as dial, whether it needs to be rotated, tapped, long pressed, or held. Regardless of their secondary functions and labels, I will refer to these buttons simply as power button, memory write, menu, VFO, or variable frequency operation, memory call, or channel mode, Moni, or monitor, and dial. The memory write and menu buttons are easily mistaken. If you intend to tap the menu button, but instead realize you've tapped the memory write button, it may be confusing for you. Tapping the memory write button repeatedly does not cancel the memory write operation. However, tapping the menu button does cancel the memory write operation. So, if you mistakenly tap the memory write button, simply tap the menu button to cancel. Now, let's look at the reset options. The ID-880H provides 2 levels of reset. All reset, this resets the radio completely, deleting any stored memory channels and restoring all settings to the default configuration. And partial reset, this does not delete memory channels or repeater lists, but it does restore all other settings to their default configuration. My recommendation is to perform an all reset when you first get your radio. The partial reset can be performed later if you desire to return all settings to their default configuration without losing any stored memory channels. Here are the steps required to perform an all reset. Long press the power button to toggle power off. Hold menu and memory right, and at the same time, tap power. The display indicates clear, sounds 1 beep, and then the word Icom. All reset deletes all stored memory channels, restores all settings to their default configuration, and sets the radio to variable frequency operation, VFO mode, and displays an FM frequency modulation frequency of 146.010 megahertz. Following an all reset, the default settings include 2 different frequencies pre-assigned and stored as memory channels. By switching from variable frequency operation, VFO, to channel mode, memory call, we can verify these 2 default channel assignments. Tap memory call to switch to channel mode. The display indicates MR with 146.010 assigned to channel 0. Rotate the dial clockwise to channel 1. Now the display indicates 440.000 assigned to channel 1. Rotate the dial back to channel 0 and tap VFO to switch back to variable frequency operation. Before I step through the partial reset, let me assign a new frequency to a memory channel. I'll also change one of the preference settings. Then I'll demonstrate how the partial reset does not delete memory channels, but it does restore preference settings to their default configuration. Ensure the radio is in VFO mode. The display does not show an M above the channel number. Rotate dial to 146.520. Tap memory right. The display indicates a flashing MR with 146.010 and channel 0 still showing. Dial to channel 2. That's our next available channel. Currently there is no frequency assigned to channel 2. And notice the flashing MR. That means that memory right mode has been invoked. Now, long press memory right. The display beeps twice. Now it shows the frequency we entered, 146.520, and the channel number is channel 2. Rotating the dial in VFO mode changes the frequency, but it does not change the channel number. In VFO mode, the channel number is irrelevant. VFO mode is variable frequency mode, with no connection to any assigned channels. Here's how to display each frequency with its assigned channel number. Tap memory call to switch to channel mode. The display indicates MR. Rotate the dial counterclockwise to view each of the 3 assigned channels. Channel 2, 146.520. Channel 1, 440 megahertz. Channel 0, 146.010. In memory call mode, if the dial rotates counterclockwise past channel 0, the display indicates 4 default scan edge channels. 1B, assigned to the frequency of 450 megahertz, 1A, 430, 0B, 148, and 0A, 144. These are called scan edge channels because each pair of AB channels mark the beginning and end of a range of frequencies that may be scanned. Programming and scanning these ranges within the scan edge channels will be covered in a later episode. For now, tap VFO to switch back to variable frequency operation mode. Next, we'll configure a preference setting. One of the default preference settings that I usually change is called the RF attenuator function. The default setting is on, but I prefer it to be set off. This provides a wider noise filter for squelch control. So here's how to do that. Tap Menu, rotate the dial to Set. Tap Moni. Rotate the dial to Function. It is already at Function. And tap Moni. Rotate the dial to ATT-ATT. You can see that currently it's set on. Tap Moni. Rotate the dial counterclockwise to off. Tap Moni. Tap Menu to exit. At this point, we've done the following: an all reset. We've programmed 146.520 to be assigned channel number 2, and we've set the RF attenuator preference off. Now, what happens if we perform a partial reset? Remember, an all reset resets the radio completely, deleting any stored memory channels and restoring all settings to their default configuration. However, a partial reset does not delete memory channels or repeater lists, but it does restore all other settings to their default configuration. Now that we've assigned a new frequency to channel 2 and the RF attenuator has been set to off, here are the steps required for a partial reset. Long press the power button to toggle power off. Hold MW and VFO, and at the same time tap power. The transceiver beeps once and Icom is displayed. The mode is set to VFO. There's no M displayed above the channel number. And the display is tuned to the default frequency, 146.010 megahertz. In FM operation mode. Now let's verify that 146.520 is still assigned to channel 2, since this was only a partial reset. So tap memory call to switch to channel mode, dial to channel 2, and our channel 2 is still programmed. The partial reset did not delete the channel assignment. Let's verify that the RF attenuator setting has been reset. A partial reset should reset all the settings back to default, which was on originally. So, tap Menu and rotate the dial to Set. Tap Moni to confirm. If you have to, dial to Function. It's right there already. Tap Moni to confirm. Rotate dial to ATT-ATT. It is on. Remember, Before, we had set this off. Before the partial reset, we had set this setting to off. It provides a wider squelch filter. But a partial reset resets all the settings back to default, and the default setting for the RF attenuator is on. Partial reset did change the RF attenuator preference setting, restoring it to the default configuration. However, it did not change any of our programmed channel frequencies. A partial reset does not delete any assigned channels, but it does restore preference settings to the default configuration. So back to a clean slate. For the purposes of this tutorial, before we go to the next section, I'm going to perform an all reset to return the radio back to its factory default settings and default memory channels. Long press power to toggle power off. Hold menu and memory right, and at the same time tap power. Now let's check the channel assignments. Tap memory call to switch to channel mode. Rotate the dial to channel 2. There is no channel 2. There's scanage channels, channel 0, and channel 1. The all reset restored all programmed channel frequencies back to factory default. It deleted the new channel frequency assignment that we had programmed. This has been how to program and operate the Icom ID-880H amateur radio transceiver. Thank you for watching, for liking, and for subscribing to my channel at youtube.com/Milt Reynolds. I'm Milt Reynolds, KJ7PPX in Boise, Idaho, and I'll be clear on your final 73.